Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Samuel, and it is my pleasure to welcome everyone to our very first Facebook Live engagement session on MICPA CANS program. This prestigious program is offered in Sunway tests in January 2019, and our student number has been steadily increasing, and to date, we have close to 100 students comprising of self-sponsored students, corporate-sponsored students, and Yayasan Peneraju scholars. Trust me, we are all very excited to welcome you to our family in near future. Okay, now I would like to extend a warm welcome to Miss Emily Chong, Head of Program, to give you a short introduction of MICPA CANS program. Welcome, Miss Emily.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us this evening for the engagement session. I'm Miss Emily from in charge of MICPA program at Sunway Test CAE. For the next few minutes, I would like to share a few slides with you on the programs at Sunway CAE. Hi, can everyone see the slides? For the next few sessions, I will present the MICPA CANS program at Sunway Test CAE. Sunway Test CAE has conducted internationally renowned professional accounting program, and it has sorry about that. Okay, about Sunway Test CAE. CAE stands for Center for Accounting Excellence. Sunway Test Center for Accounting Excellence is an integral part of Sunway College, which offers internationally well-known professional accounting program. Sunway Test CAE was incorporated in 1994 as a subsidiary of the Sunway Education Group and has been recognized as a key player amongst learning provider of professional accounting and financial program. As a prestigious accounting provider, Sunway Test CAE plays a vital role in the growth and progress of the accounting profession in Malaysia. Sunway Test CAE offers a top-class facility for student teaching and learning. We also provide face-to-face support with first-hand knowledge from experienced lecturers, both as academic and industrial. Most of the academic lecturers are with us for more than 20 years. Our lecturing team provides a crucial touch in their lectures, answering techniques, and providing invaluable guidance to place students into pinnacle position in their career growth. We have an exceptionally also well equipped with the library. Sunway campus, in fact, library hosts a mass collection of e-learn materials, journals, and magazines to assist students in their learning. And it's also ISO certified. Next, we have the MICPA CANS program. As you can see, candidates can undertake the 4 technical modules in any order, like is audit assurance, financial accounting and reporting, management accounting and applied finance, as well as taxation in any order, and must complete the program with the final capstone module. All right. You can see on the right side, 20% of the online assessment, which are 3 online assessments for the 3 papers: audit assurance, financial accounting, reporting, management accounting, and applied finance. Whereas for project paper, it consists of 1 text paper, is also 20% of the overall marks. So 80% is the final examination. For capstone, 40% will be on the workshop as well as the 2 assignment, whereas 60% is on the final examination. So students can take any order within the 4 technical modules and also with the final capstone when they are converting to part-time while they are working. Sunway Test CAE also offer 2 study modes. Other than part-time, we also offer full-time classes, which are held weekdays. Normally, it's 2 to 3 classes per week. And for part-time, it's over the weekend, either Saturday or Sunday. And many are for the sponsor students from the firms. And also, Sunway Test CAE teaching and learning structure. We conduct face-to-face lecture other than online lecture, which we are currently offering due to COVID-19. So all the classes are conducted online. On top of the lecture, we also offer revision classes. The facilitator normally provide and discuss past year examination question and technique during this session. On top of the revision classes, we also offer progress tests and mock exam, which are set distinctively similar to the actual open book examination. Yes, subject like soft skills is also incorporated into the MICPA program with the aim to prepare them with a range of graduate level skills required for the job market. These include communication skill, interpersonal skill, interviewing skill, and resume writing. Why MICPA CANS? As you can see, there are quite a few so-called benefits from you taking the MICPA program. It gives you dual membership, MICPA and CANS, so you will get the 2 qualifications once you complete the 5 modules. It's also a pathway to become part of a global network of accounting professionals, access to the Global Accounting Alliance, GAA, they call it. With this qualification, it opens widely to the employment opportunity globally. So you have the opportunity to be employed anywhere in the world and not be confined to certain sector or nation. Since the inception of the MICPA CANS program in term 1, 2019, we are proud to say that we have 4 candidates that have emerged with high marks to achieve the following awards. For example, in 2019, term 1, FIN 119 April 19 sittings, we have one student by the name of Pan Shooting who had gotten the award of Pass with Merit. Whereas in term 3, we have 2 recipients, FIN 319, both of them, in December 19 sitting, and one achieved the gold medal, Dato On Chompeng gold medal, N Jing Yi, and she is from BDO PLT. And the other one is Pass with Merit, Muhammad Khairul Fidaus bin Rosli, our Penardu scholar. And recently, we also gotten one award for 2020 term 1, AAA 120. The sitting is in April actually. Dato On Chompeng gold medal, Joshua Louis Zhen Yu. He is from KPMG. So you can see we are very proud that with the 1.5 years of inception, we managed to have 4 award recipients. Okay, the next slide is on the timetable for 2020. As you can see, term 2 have already started in June. So now we are going for term 3. Yeah, again, term 3 actually text 320 meanings 3 is term 3 to 20 is 2020. That's how you read the timetable. It's all posted on MICPA website. The next module is AAA 320. So we are offering these 2 modules for term 3, and do take note that the enrollments will only be open on the 24th of July and closes on the 7th of August. For candidate to be admitted to the program, MICPA program, he or she have to possess a degree in accounting or other discipline accredited by MICPA or CANS, and also be employed by an approved training employer in the relevant field of work, especially for the part-time student. To qualify as MICPA and CANS member, the candidate have to complete the advanced stage examination of the MICPA CANS program, which consists of 5 modules, as mentioned earlier, and also to obtain a minimum 3 years relevant practical experience with an approved training employee, ATE in short form. Okay, this is my last slide. So if you have any question, you can always write to us. That is me, Miss Emily Chung, at this address, and the phone number is stated behind. Other than that, I have another colleague, Mr. Samuel, who is also in charge of this program. Thank you and have a good session.
Okay, thank you, Miss Emily, for the very informative sharing session. Okay, moving on to our next agenda, we have 2 MICPA facilitators to share their experience in teaching this program. We truly appreciate that they are willing to sacrifice their valuable time to share their experience with all of us. Our first facilitator is Mr. Ravi. Mr. Ravi is a fellow of members of the Association Chartered Certified Accountant, a chartered accountant of the Malaysia Institute of Accountants MIA, and an associate member of the Chartered Tax Institute of Malaysia. Mr. Ravi also worked with one of the big four accounting firms specializing in taxation services. He has been teaching and preparing students for various professional examinations for many years. We are very glad to have you, Mr. Ravi. So, welcome, Mr. Ravi.
Thank you very much, Sam. On a 9 o'clock, you guys are really doing a good job. Yes, welcome, potential candidates. Now, I'm going to give you a brief outline because we need to get a lot of questions from your side. So let me just give you a background of the tax paper. Okay, so one of the papers that we'll do is the Malaysian taxation. So it's a Malaysian variant of the tax paper, and as you know, Malaysia has got a lot of taxes, right? So we've got the Income Tax Act, we've got the real property gains tax. So there are many important taxes, including the tax incentives and the indirect tax such as sales and service tax. Now, all these are actually captured in a bunch of chapters in your candidate's study guide. So there's a study guide that will be provided by MICPA and Sunway. And inside there, all about 40 chapters we have covering all the various topics that we need to focus on. Say, for example, I'll give you an example of, say, a corporate tax. Okay, so at the end of by the time you finish the course, you'll be able to do a prepared tax computation for a company, either for your client or for your in-house. Say, let's say, for example, you're actually working in a company that actually has in-house taxes, or you prepare it for your own company and you prepare it for your boss. So therefore, you'll have the sufficient knowledge, right, to be able to actually prepare tax computation in say, an accounting firm or in a company that you're working in. So basically, you're going to actually find out what are the basic principles. Okay, so when we are doing the Malaysian tax exam papers, it's very important for you to understand that you need to realize that there are principles. You need to know what to do, but that is not enough. Okay, so you need to know why you're doing it. So if you're going to do something, let's say, for example, you're going to add back an entertainment expense, you need to add back, you know what to do, but you must know why you're doing it. Okay, so the examiner has actually come up with some core topics in the past year Q&A, which after each chapter, each main chapter that we do, we will be, like what Ms. Emily was mentioning earlier, we will be actually doing as far as possible a past year question and answer exam for you, to prepare you for the exams, and they'll give you an exposure of the type of questions that you expect to know. Okay, so we've got various, like I said, in the Income Tax Act, the real property gains tax, and all you need to do is make sure that you understand the principles that is inside your candidate study guide. Okay, now as a facilitator, my job, one of the most important jobs that I want to do is the candidate study guide that is given to you, and to get together with some other materials will be given to you by us separately as facilitators. We will give some additional notes, some very brief notes, for you to make sure that you understand whatever is inside the study guide, so that you'll be able to apply it during your exams. Okay, so your job is, you don't have to memorize any tax rates, right? In terms of memory, your job is just to try to understand your principles. And ladies and gents, let me actually tell you, taxation is one of the few things that you cannot escape from, whether you like it or not, right? So let's say, for example, you finish your class, you're going back home, and your auntie is asking you, hey, where are you coming from? Oh, I just finished my tax lecture. Very good, sit down. I want to have a question. I just sold my property. I want to ask you something on RPGT. And if you say you don't know, then you'll say, oh God, come on, you're doing all this and you know. So you must know it, okay? It's something that you have to know. It'll benefit you, and it is going to benefit you even in your work, right? Because you're being professional accountants, you're expected to have a broad basis of the principles involved, right? So as facilitators, we will actually come up with, maybe in certain areas, there are certain techniques you need to follow, and there are some do's and don'ts that we will actually highlight wherever is possible. And we will try to make things easier when it comes to the candidate study guide, because it is quite heavy. There is about approximately 40 chapters. We've got to do it within say 60 hours, right? So we've got a tight schedule. In certain cases, slightly more. So time is of essence. So when you are in the class, if you make use of that 6 hours, it'll benefit you significantly, right? It'll benefit you significantly. So that is another area, right? Now, let me actually just also mention about the strategy that you would normally recommend to candidates, right? So the strategy is the question paper will actually be involving computation questions. Okay, like for example, prepare income tax computation for a company, for example. Okay, and then there'll be a theory part, right? So the question exams will have computations, right, and theory. Okay, now as accountants, we love figures. We love, right, as accounting graduates, or even as accountants, we love figures. But it is very, very important. The examiner has actually highlighted once, keeps on repeating this. No, please ask them to focus on the theory part. The narrative part is very, very important. Okay, so that is something that you need to make sure, right? You understand the principles, you'll apply it, and your job is try to understand. Okay, so that is something that we're going to do now. And together with the, you'll have access to the past Q&A. So you'll have access to it where, in the website, you have this past Q&As. So we will actually be trying to try to do as many questions, but because the time constraint we have and the number of topics we have for taxation, it is something where, like I said, if you dedicate yourself during that class session, you say, no, I don't understand this, I keep on repeating it. Okay, and another thing about taxation is not everything, most of the things you can understand, but there are certain maybe one or two things, like for example, RPC, hey, I thought it's this, right? So sometimes you might actually have some doubts, but look, we don't want 100%, right? For us, 90% is okay, right? That's what I used to tell my candidates. Okay, so let me actually just summarize now. Okay, so you'll be given this we've got these chapters. It involves the Income Tax Act, like for example, corporate tax. We'll have cap allowances. Then we'll have, say, things like taxability. You're receiving income, is it taxable or not taxable? You tell me why, I'll give you marks. Okay, and if it's expenditure, you tell me whether I can claim or not. You tell me why I cannot claim, right? And I'll give you marks, right? So sometimes we need to base it on certain case laws that is given in the candidate study guide. And then there are some specialized industries, like for example, investment holding companies, right? What is the tax computation? How to do an insurance company? By the time you finish your course, you will be able to do a tax computation for a specialized industry such as an insurance, right? Or a banking, or a unit trust, right? So it has certain specialized industries based on the Income Tax Act. And then, of course, we've got some very, very important areas such as real property gains tax, okay, RPGT. Then we will have a tax planning question towards the end, where it's a combination of how to actually, I've got losses, what should I do to maximize my losses, minimize my taxation, right? So group reliefs, right? And so you'll be actually getting a lot of tax incentives, right? Areas of tax incentives such as finance areas and ITA, which you would have probably, some of you might have actually done it. But maybe for the foreign graduates, maybe you need to spend it's just a little bit of additional time to understand, because Malaysian tax is, once you know it, you can do it. Okay, so that's something that you are going to do. And then we'll finish up with some indirect tax, like some cross-border taxation, like withholding tax, and the famous sales and service tax. Okay, so, and practice, right? And you will be able to pass these exams if you do the needful. Okay, and I have nothing more, but we'll wait for your questions, and I'll pass it over to Sam.
All right, I saw that there is one question posted in the comment section. Rest assured, we will address all the comments at the end of the session, after the sharing session. So do stay, and we definitely get back to you with all the question later on. All right, so next, thank you, Mr. Ravi, for the insightful sharing. And our second facilitator is Miss Aisim. Okay, a short introduction about her will be Miss Aisim is a member of MICPA, and also a member of MICPA, all right, as a member of MIA as well, sorry. Prior joining the teaching profession, she was working as an auditor with one of the big four accounting firms. Ms. Isim currently lectures for MICPA camps and CPA Australia professional exams in Sunway Test. She also conducts public seminars on IFRS for MICPA, MICPA, CPA Australia, ISCA Singapore. Now let me welcome Ms. Isim.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Hi, everyone. Right. I actually conduct the AAA program and the FIN program for Sunway Tests. Right. I have been with Sunway Tests for this program since the inception. Right. Now, let me give you a bit of background on the FIN syllabus. Right. For the FIN syllabus, you will be tested on what we call IFRS standards. So the international standards will be what will be used in the exam. Right. So you will have what we call the study guide as well, like what Mr. Ravi said, and you will also have work examples and you will have activities. So for the FIN program, right, you need to cover the accounting standards, do all the exercises, no different from text. But what is important is, as facilitator or as a facilitator, what my role is to actually bring you through the topics. But when we do the topics, I will try to cover the theory, that is the principle behind why you need to know this IFRS. Then from that principle, you build on to calculate the workings or to do the exercises, right? Now, what is important when we do the FIN paper is you need a strong foundation of the IFRS principles. No memory work, but if you know the business, you will know how to apply the standards. After which, when you're faced with computations, now once you have the principles, you just apply those principles to the computation. But you must always have what we call a very clear mind. Means you must go through step by step. You cannot say from A, you jump to the last step. No. When you study systematically. So when you address the questions in the exam, when you present your answers, it will be systematic, and this will help you get more marks. Because as an examiner, when they look at your answers, what they want to see is, for FIN, your workings and what do you know about the theory. Right. So the FIN paper is not that difficult to digest as long as you understand the principles, but you really need a lot of practice, right? And the FIN paper is what you call very practical, right? So there are only 4 questions which you need to do, right, for the final exam, right? So that is a bit on the FIN paper. Now on the AAA paper, this is the advanced auditing paper. Right, you need to study what we call the international standards on auditing. Right, this ISAs will cover what we call all the auditing principles. So as an auditor, you need to know these standards, because when we document our work, right, we have to make sure we follow the standards. So how the AAA syllabus is set out is that you will start with, before client acceptance, what you need to do, what is risk assessment, right? How do you do a planning? And how do you obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence, right? So all these are important, right? Because the examiner will test you on the principles set out in the ISAs. Now, the auditing paper is slightly different in approach from the FIN paper, because when you look at the auditing paper, right, how the questions are set by the examiner is that they will test you on your principles, means application. You apply your principles to the cases that are given to you. So when we say cases, this means like question 1, what are the facts given in the question? Then you apply it to the facts in the question and you set up your answers. So for the AAA paper, what is important is the way you present your answers, right? You must write your answers in very straight to the point method. Means you must identify what is the risk, for example, and straight away explain why is it a risk, right? So the examiner expects you to write straight to the point and yet addressing the issue. So this is something that you need to cultivate when you are studying for this AAA paper, right? So just to sum up, the AAA paper and the FIN paper, right, it has different approaches, right? So the AAA paper is more of application of scenarios, whereas the FIN paper focuses more on your technical abilities and understanding of the IFRS standards. Now, to take the AAA paper, sometimes, right, you would need to have some accounting knowledge, because if you're going to identify risk, right, you need to know how the company has addressed this risk in the financial statements. Because as an auditor, if you want to give an opinion, you are giving an opinion on the set of financial statements, right? And who prepares the set of financial statements? It is prepared by the management. And when management prepares the financial statements, they will use IFRS. So there is a bit of link between the two papers, but it is not really that much knowledge that you must have for FIN in order to do the AAA paper, right? Okay, so you don't have to worry about the what they call the materials, because you have very good materials, very comprehensive materials. So all you need to do is, like what Mr. Ravi said, understand the principles and apply the principles to the exam questions, right? What is important is read the requirement of the questions. You must always, when you answer, must always make sure your answer is sufficient enough to meet the requirement, right? Because, right, the FIN and the AAA paper is not Malaysian based. So the papers or the questions are not marked locally. They are all marked overseas, right, by CANS, right? So sometimes the scenario may not be a local scenario, but do not worry. As long as you know the principles, you should be able to address the questions. Okay, so I think that's all I have in respect of the FIN and AAA paper. So hope to see you all in this third semester. All right, Sam, back to you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Isim, for the impactful sharing. Okay, so we have come to an end of our sharing session. So next will be a Q&A. Our next agenda in line is Q&A session. So if you have any burning questions to ask us, feel free to type in the comment section, and our facilitators will try our level best to address all the questions from you. All right. So come, you can type it there. If you have anything that you would like to ask our facilitators, come just put it in the comment section. We have 4 facilitators to address all the question. We have Miss Emily, Mr. Ravi, Miss Isim, and we also have a special guest from MICPA Malaysia, which is Miss Eileen, the head of marketing. All right. A warm welcome to all of you.
So can I answer the question, Sam?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yes, provisional, nice. Now we have about approximately 40 chapters, and yes, we will be actually going through it. But in certain chapters, we will not be going through it. But basically, we need to cover all the chapters, right? So that'll be the answer to your question. And but out of those 40 chapters, there are some core topics which will be based in the exams. So let's say, for example, the core topic of an company tax, right? So that will probably cover about 4 to 5 chapters. So that will be actually covering one exam question. Okay. Then we have, say, for example, specialized industries. We have, say 8 specialized industries, out of which maybe you'll be getting a question, say maybe 1 or 2 questions on that. So we still need to do all the specialized industries. There's no spotting business here, right? So by the time you actually finish the course, you will have a basic and a broad understanding of the each type of areas in the in the topic that we are dealing with. So if it's income tax, you'll have a broad base idea of actually what happens in the, say, insurance industry, how does it work, and a corporate tax, manufacturing company, a trading company, or a services based company, right? What are the sales and service tax? So we will be actually going through the 40 chapters, but maybe in certain topics we will actually not be going through in full deep levels, but you still need to actually go through the 40 chapters. Provisional. Yeah, I think I will start off first, and then I'll actually hand it over to Isim. Okay. Now, like I said, that's an important word, strategy here. Now, for the tax paper, like we discussed, we've got a strategy of computations, type of questions, and theory based. Okay. Now, for the computation basis, it is not good enough that you know how to do it. You must know it within. You must do it within the time allocated. Right. So, if they say, for example, a 10-marker, right, a 10-mark question, then let's say, for example, you need to finish it off within 20 minutes. Okay, within 20 minutes. In that case, you may need to make sure that you do the computations within the time allocated to you. You cannot take 30 minutes to do a 20-minute question. Okay, so we need to have a strategy. Okay, the strategy would be to understand it, understand the principles, and practice. Right, practice. That will be the key. Right, so as long as you understand the principles, you ask why should I do this adjustment, why can't it be the other way, right? So sometimes there are some errors you might actually come across in, say, maybe in some things that you're doing, but generally speaking, the basic principles are always there. And so the strategy would be computations, make sure you understand the principles, theory punsama, but the strategy would be you need to do both questions, computation and theory. Okay, so we're looking at about maybe 60 to 70% in computations, and you're looking at about maybe 30% or 40% of theory, right? So it's very important that the theory part, the strategy would be to make sure you apply both, and you need to do all the questions. By the time you come out of the 3-hour exam, you need to make sure that you do all the questions. There's no thing as no, I missed out the last question. There's no such thing. Okay, so that'll be another strategy for you to make sure that you observe for the taxpayer. Okay, and then maybe ISIM can actually add to the others.
All right, thanks, Ravi. Right, actually, in my view, right, I actually do agree with Mr. Ravi. What is important is you need to go through all your materials, study materials, and understand them thoroughly. Because sometimes the exam questions, right, uses the questions in the maybe activities or work example, right? It could be in the same format, but what they change will be just a bit maybe on the figures sometimes, right? So it is important to go through all the materials, and you must have also a clear mind when you write your answers. So a lot of practice needs to be done over at your end to enable you that you not only pass the exams, but when you aim, you must aim for higher than passing, right? Okay, so same as Mr. Ravi, you do all your work examples of the activities and look at your CSG. Okay, next, Sam.
I think this is directed to you.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Miss Emily. Right. From my experience, exam questions, do they differ a lot from work examples and activities in the module? Right. Actually, they apply the same principles. They do not differ a lot, but the scenario will change. If you look at all the past year questions, right, the questions will change, the scenario will change, but the principle still stays the same. So you're correct. You must do all these work examples and the activities, right? Because the principles tested in the final exam will be the same principles that are set out in these few modules. Okay.
Okay, Amalina Azmi said, thank you, Mr. Ravi and ICM for the sharing about the 3 paper. Can you also share some tips in preparing the critical file to bring into the exam? Can we start off with Mr. Ravi, please?
Yeah, so I used to tell my wonderful candidates that you got to bring a library, right? So enormous because it's an open book, you're actually allowed to bring in. So the candidate study guide is actually very important, and like we've already discussed, Amelina, it's not enough that you bring it along with you. You must make sure you know what it is there. Okay, so let's say, for example, they're asking you a question on, say, what is the tax incentives available for a halal food certification company, right? So let's say there's an investor who wants to invest. What are the tax incentives? What are the income tax incentives available under the, say, under the Malaysian tax legislation? And let's say, for example, it is in the other incentives that's available, say in say a chapter, say 23, right? Now, if you are aware, right? Now, you're not expected to remember, right? Amelina, remember we discussed. You don't need to memorize your candidate study guide because you're allowed to take it as an open book. Now, as long as you know that there is a tax incentives for halal food certification, and as long as you know where it is, now let us say, for example, oh my God, I thought I actually saw this, when I was studying earlier, and I don't know what it was, and I think I saw it in this chapter. And let's say I go to chapter 23, and I see it. Oh my God, that is, and these I can get a say a ITA of 100%, and that's it. You have actually understood that it is there, and so that is something. So the candidate study guide is very important, and also typically there'll be the past Q&As, right? The past Q&As. That also will actually be something that you will also it'll be useful for you to take. And if there is any additional notes, now as facilitators, we will try to reduce the number of notes because most of it is inside I mean, your CA, I mean, the MICPA's candidate study guide is easily one of the best in Malaysia. I can actually guarantee you that because it's actually so comprehensive and updated. But sometimes because it is a bit, because some chapters have too many words, for example, it's a bit verbose. So we, as FESIs, we tend to give you a summary version of, say, what happens in the IH investment holding company. They give you the basics, or we give you the basis of insurance. So there are some additional notes. So those additional notes is something that you need to bring in. But otherwise, right? Otherwise, nothing significant from the tax side, right? So it'll be the candidate study guide, your past Q&As, and if there's any other additional notes, like for example, you wanted to know the withholding tax rates for double taxation agreements, it's actually given in the study guide, right? You don't need to remember it, right? But there might be some other areas where, for example, there is a practice note on digital services that is not available fully. You might need to actually print that out and add it to your notes under sales and service tax, so that in case something come out. So there might be maybe certain areas where from the websites or from the FESIs we need to add on. So those are the main areas. But the CSG, past Q&As, and some additional notes, Amelina, would help, right? Asim?
Right, thanks, Mr. Ravi. Right, now for the fin paper, right, what are the critical files, right? First, you need to know the IFRS standards, but you're not going to print out all the IFRS standards because you are not able to refer the standards during the exams. So what the students do is that they look at the contents page. No, for every chapter, right, there's actually a summary of the standards that are actually to be applied for that particular exercise, right? So you need to know which chapter and which are the IFRS standards applicable to each chapter, right? So that could form one of the critical files. Now, the other critical file is during my sessions, right? When I do my lectures, right, I will try to do what we call mind mapping. What is important in mind mapping for Fin is that because the questions don't cover only one section, they cover sometimes 2-3 units of the syllabus. So you need to know how they are linked. Like for instance, if the question asks you to prepare a statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, there'll be so many items there. There'll be revenue there, there'll be expenses, right? So it doesn't only come from one chapter. Like for revenue, you need to know IFRS 15. Then for the income taxes, you need to know the income taxes section, the deferred tax, right? So what you need to do is sometimes do a mind mapping. right? Then from there, it will help you address the questions. Now, you also need to know the format of the questions. Sometimes question 1 will talk about more of preparing financial statements. Then question 2 might be more of leasing. Question 3 is financial instruments or financial instruments for that matter. Then question 4 could be consolidation. Now, consolidation normally is in question 4. So you need to know how are the question 1, 2, 3, 4 are structured, right? Then from there, you build up your critical file based on how the format of the questions are. Now, the other thing is when you set up your critical files, it is always advisable that you as a student, right, you set up your own critical file, right? Because when you do the critical file yourself, you are actually doing a revision on your own. So when you write, the retention power, I would think is better. So when you do your own critical file, right, you are actually doing what we call an in-depth discussion, right? So the other thing is also sometimes I find students sharing their critical files. So when the students share the critical files, then you see, oh, this is something that is missing here, then you add on, right? But the most important thing is set up your own critical file, right? So I think these are some of the tips I can share for in respect of critical files. But do not overload your critical files, because if you overload your critical files, you wouldn't be able to find the information. Now, if you ask anyone in the streets, they will say open book exam is very easy. But do not forget, when it is open book exam, you have what you call the width. They will test you on many, many things, right? So if they test you on many, many things, how are you going to have a concise critical file, right? So you can only put the basic things in the critical file. Because you only have 3 hours and 15 minutes to do the exam, you are not going to flip through the critical file, flip through your CSG for the answer. By the time you finish flipping through, you will find that you might have wasted most of your time. So be prepared and use the critical file only when necessary. Okay, so I think this will be my summary for this question.
Okay, we have another one from Simran Simo. As per our degree, we have to take an extra paper FR before we can go about with the fin module. How do we go about with this? Can I direct this to Eileen?
Yep, sure. Hi, Simran. Thanks for your question. So based on your question, just to add some context to it, I think you are probably a Sunway BAF student, which a lot of the students there do have the same, may face the same scenario as you. So in order to take our fin module, you do need to take MICPA's financial reporting or FR paper from our professional stage examination before you proceed on to the advanced stage fin. So in order to do that, you'll need to register yourself directly with us. So the best thing you can do is to contact MICPA, and we'll assist you to get you enrolled and provide you with the necessary guidance on the next steps. So for the other classes, you can always contact Sunway Test. Right, but for the professional stage FR paper, you go through us. Hope that helps.
Okay, we are final semester student of Sunway University BAF program. I have 2 questions here. Can I see the questions? First, we do not qualify for the fin exemption due to the elective we have taken in our degree. Can we still take the AAA or tax subject for term 3? Eileen, I'll leave it to you.
Yep, sure. So just to add on to that, since you're a BAF student, just to highlight to everyone that for the BAF degree from Sunway University, there are 3 electives that you do need to take at your degree level, which is advanced tax, advanced audit, and advanced financial accounting. So if you have not taken AFA, for example, you will need to take MICPA's professional stage examination financial reporting paper. But you can actually still proceed on to the other papers such as audit or tax while you are doing our FR paper before you proceed to Fin. So sorry, I hope that's clear. You can proceed on to the AAA or tax papers before Fin. So provided that you do our FR paper before you move on to Fin. I hope that's clear.
Okay, the second question, our finals exam are in 2 weeks, but since enrollment closes on the 7th of August, we are unsure if we are able to obtain an academic transcript in time. How do we go about this? Again, sorry, Eileen's
Yeah.
pick up, yeah.
So you do need to ensure that before enrollment closes for term 3, that your notification of results is released, showing that you have completed your degree program. We will accept that. But if it's not ready yet, then unfortunately you'll have to sign up in term 1, 2021. So it really depends on when your results are out. And as you've rightly pointed out, our enrollment for term 3 will be open from 24th July till 7th of August for tax and audit papers. So yeah, we hope that your results can be released in time for these dates.
And then the other question, where can I sign up for PSE since I did not meet the required elective subject for my degree? I will leave it to you, Eileen, to answer this.
Yep, sure. So sign up directly with MICPA. Perhaps you can send an email to us at info@micpa.com.my and we'll assist you from there. So don't worry if you can't recall all the steps on where to go to register. Just drop us an email at info@micpa.com.my and then we'll guide you after that.
Next question, may I know what is the structure of MICPA final exam? So this one, I'll leave it to Isim, then Mr. Ravi to answer. Isim?
The structure of the MICPA final exams, right, for the FIN and the AAA paper and the NAV paper, right, there will be 4 questions, right, and each question will be 20 marks each, and the candidate will have 3.5 hours to complete the questions. Now, the recent MICPA or MICPA CANS exam was actually online. So for future sessions, right, we do not think for this coming session, the exams will be online. So this is another hurdle that candidates will need to overcome, because it is, I think moving forward, it's not going to be more of paper-based, right? It's going to be more of online, right? So this is something that candidates needs to tackle, not only the paper, but also the technical issues that can accompany or that you will face during the exams, right? Okay, Mr. Ravi?
Yeah, thanks. Item. Now, for the tax paper, well, we've got the exam, so that'll be a written exam, and at this point in time, what we understand is it's not online. It had to be a physical, and I think MICPA and Sunway are working on this aggressively. But at the moment, it's actually going to be done physically. So you need to go to an exam center, and there are some instructions. So the exam questions will be in the exam question. There'll be 80 marker, which is made up of 4 questions at 20 marks for each question. Okay, so 80 marker made up of 4 questions, and each question is a 20 marker, and each question has got more than one part. So there's maybe a part 1, 1A, 1B, and then 2A, 2B, 2C, right? And then question number 3 is 3A, B, C, right? And 4A, B, C. Okay, so each question, and it's got a pattern, like it's got this core topics, or what we call it pattern. Say question number 1 is normally a corporate tax. Okay, So then they will ask you, look, what is the due date to submit a tax return for a company? So what we call tax administration or self-assessment type of questions. I've got an installment scheme, right, and my actual tax is slightly higher. Do I have to pay any penalties, right? So that will be basically the corporate tax and self-assessment and tax admin and maybe a little bit of tax audit and tax investigation. So what we call is tax administration is question number 1, 20 marker. Question number 2 will be a theory part on whether a gain or an income that is received, is it taxable? Is it subject to income tax? Yes or no? Please provide the arguments that it is subject to tax and arguments that it's not subject to tax. Likewise, for an expense, right? Is it deductible? Give us the arguments that it is deductible and give us the arguments that it's not deductible. And then the last part for the second question would be something that involves tax incentives under the Promotion of Investments Act, which normally focuses on, say, pioneer status, ITA, or reinvestment allowances. Okay, so that's question number 2, 20 marker, maybe the incentive question, maybe pioneer status, ITA, right? You'll be asked to do a computation or make some advice on whether we should go for ITA for maybe 10 marks, and then the balance is going to be for the taxabilities. Now, question number 3 is actually made up of 2 main areas. One is the specialized industries or specialized treatments, like, for example, investment holding companies or insurance companies. What is the tax treatment? And unit trust and listed IHCs and non-listed IHCs, maybe a 10 marker, maybe 8 marker, maybe 12 marker. And then the balance, let's say, for example, RPGT, you've got a 10 marker waiting for you, 12 marker or 8 marker, depending on the total. So RPGT would be actually in the third question. Okay, so that's the RPGT. RPC is in question number 3. And the last question would be tax planning, right? So tax planning involves everything under the sun you study from day 1, from chapter 1 until the last chapter. Okay, so they'll ask you things like, for example, I've got a stamp duty implications. Can you please calculate for me? Right? Can you tell me how to reduce my stamp duties? Do I have to pay RPGT? Can you tell me how to reduce paying my RPGT? Right? Do I have to pay income tax? Can you tell me how to reduce my income tax? So basically, you're applying a knowledge, right? And this is actually something that is going to be very useful for you, even in your work, right? It's actually very useful for you. Your boss will be happy with you. Your clients will be happy. But first, we need to get through this exam test. Okay, that'll be most important. And then we've got this finishing off with the cross-border transaction, a little bit of withholding tax, permanent establishments, and then ending it with maybe some sales tax or service tax, right? So maybe a 5 marker on that. So all 4 questions based on 20 marks each, and then the balance, the 20 marks, is actually based on, I believe, some projects. I think that I will leave it to Emily and Eileen. The balance, the project is actually very important. So while we're actually doing the chapters, we will actually be focusing on the topics that there are a bunch of questions that will be set for the project. So we will do those topics that is relevant for your projects, so that when you submit it, by the time you submit it, you will have already gone through the chapters. Okay, so even though it is scheduled, say it's based on chapter number 26, we will actually try to do it earlier so that you'll be able to prepare the project papers, and that is something that is very important for the tax. Yeah, I have nothing else to add on that.
Okay, we have another question for Daryvind. Once again, following up on the question on the academic transcript, can we sign up for the FRPSE paper without it, or is the academic transcript notification and result not necessary for this? Eileen, can you take up this question?
Yeah, sure. So in order for us to register you as a MICPA candidate, we would need you to have your final transcript ready, or at least that notification of results before we sign you up. So it would also apply to the FR paper. So yeah, to summarize, you won't be able to sign up until we get your notification of results.
Okay, we have one question from Sammy Chang. Thank you for all facilitators on the information shared. For the exemption on the PSE module process, may I know how long will it take for the validation process on the eligibility of number of exemption obtained? Also, may I know as well how long the processing time for the new student registration after the registration form is submitted? Appreciate greatly on your enlightenment. I think I will also leave this question to you. Yeah.
Sure. So it can actually be pretty quick if you have all the required documentation provided to us. Because we have an education team that will look at the exemptions based on your completed subjects at university level. And in terms of processing for new student registration, typically we would ask you to allow for at least 2 to 3 weeks. Once you submit your registration, then you should be able to enroll for your modules after that. So you need to look at the timetable, the schedule, look at the enrollment dates for the subjects you're targeting. But before you enroll for the module, you must be registered with us as a MICPA candidate. So allow at least 2 to 3 weeks before you actually expect to register for a module.
Okay, Simran Simo have a question. Following up Darwin's question, do we have a specific timeline when can we take the FR paper? If yes, can we be brief about it? Asim, could you take up this question?
But this is on when can we take the FR paper?
I think this is the professional stage FR paper.
But it depends on which semester it is offered.
Yes.
Right.
Right. Because I
So-
think when but perhaps Eileen, you answer this because it has to do with the structure of the exam.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The timetable.
So
Yeah.
you will need to ensure that you roughly are aware of your timing, that your final results will be released, and then looking at our timetable for when the FR paper is offered, and also when the other papers are offered. If you are the only prerequisite for FIN is this FR paper, but you can take the other papers first. So you will need to plan your schedule to ensure that you have completed FR before you start FIN, but at the same time, concurrently, you can also do the other tax or audit papers, or even management accounting. If you would really like us to speak to you in more detail on your own, based on your own scenario case, just feel free to contact us. We'll be happy to speak to you personally about this in more detail.
As a MICPA student, am I allowed to defer my studies? Eileen?
Yeah. So if you are a candidate with us, you are actually given a time frame to complete all the modules. So we give you up to 8 years to complete the 5 advanced stage modules. So we offer 3 terms per year, and it's up to you to plan out your study throughout these 8 years. Most of our candidates will finish within 2 to 3 years. Sometimes during a peak period, they may actually choose not to sit for an exam during that time, so they will skip a term and then continue the following term. Some may take a break for a year and then come back. As long as you complete within the 8 years, that's fine. So all you need to do is make sure you've planned out your studies within this time frame. So hope that helps.
Okay, the next question is, what is the estimated total cost for me to complete this program? So if you're talking about the tuition fee plus the MICPA fee, it will come up to about 25,000. Yeah. So this inclusive of the tuition fee at Sunway test. I'm talking about the Sunway test, so-called tuition. Yeah. So the fee will cover us to about 25,000.
Okay, so guess there's no more any more question from all of you. Thank you all to all the facilitators. All right, we hope that they have all addressed all your inquiries accordingly, and I do hope that all of you have benefited greatly from this session. It's already 10 p.m. Thank you for taking the time to join us for this engagement session. And I think for more information that you would like to know about this MICPA program, you can contact Miss Emily or you can contact me. I think you should be able to view the email address, I think. Yep, that is going to be put shortly in the screen. All right. Feel free to drop us an email and we'll definitely get back to you, as soon as possible. All right. So thank you again very much. And we hope to see all of you in Sunway College soon. Have a good night and sweet dreams. Bye.